In 1586, in the city of York, a pregnant woman was stripped naked, laid on a sharp stone, and slowly crushed to death under 800 pounds of rock. She was a butcher's wife. Her crime was hiding a priest. A 15-year-old boy named Guy Fawkes was in the city that day. 19 years later, he tried to blow up Parliament. This is 10 things that happened in Yorkshire that nobody taught you. Before we go further, if you're watching from outside England, here's what you need to know. Yorkshire is in the north of England. It's the largest historic county in the country, roughly the size of Lebanon, or half of Massachusetts. It has coastline, cities that powered the Industrial Revolution, and dales and moors that have looked the same since before England was a country. For most of English history, whoever controlled Yorkshire controlled the north, and the north has never gone quietly. Fact 10. The Romans built a city here. 2 emperors died in it. In 71 AD, the Roman 9th Legion marched into what is now Yorkshire and built a fortress on the River Ouse. They called it Eboracum. It became one of the most important military bases in the entire Roman Empire. Emperor Septimius Severus came here to wage war on Scotland and died here in 211 AD. 60 years later, Constantine the Great, the man who made Christianity the official religion of Rome, who reshaped the entire trajectory of Western civilization, was proclaimed emperor not in Rome, not in Constantinople, but while standing in a Yorkshire garrison town. There's a statue of him outside York Minster. Most people walk straight past it. Fact 9. The Vikings took it, renamed it, and rewired the entire region. In 866, the Great Heathen Army, a Danish force so large the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle didn't bother estimating its size, invaded, captured the city, and turned it into the capital of a Viking kingdom. They renamed it Jórvik. For the next century, Yorkshire was governed by Norse law and divided into administrative units called ridings, from the Old Norse Þriðjungur, meaning a third. The county was simply too large to govern as one piece. The Vikings destroyed every monastery in the region and seized their lands. When you hear someone say East Riding or North Riding, that's not English. That's a 1,000-year-old Viking word, still embedded in the landscape of a place they occupied for 100 years and never entirely left. Fact 8. A king decided to solve the problem of Yorkshire by erasing it. Winter 1069. William the Conqueror had run out of patience with northern rebellions, so he burned Yorkshire, all of it. His army moved from village to village, destroying every crop, every grain store, every plough, every animal they could find. Contemporary writers recorded people eating horses, dogs, cats, and each other. The Domesday Book, compiled 17 years later, still recorded vast stretches of Yorkshire as simply waste, the Latin word used when there was nothing left to tax, because there was nothing left. William didn't suppress a rebellion. He tried to erase a region from the map. The tax records proved it worked. Fact 7. 150 people burned themselves alive in a tower rather than convert. The mob's real motive was debt. March 1190. The entire Jewish community of York was trapped inside the wooden tower of York Castle. The mob outside, whipped up by crusade fever, demanded they convert to Christianity or die. But the ringleaders weren't religious zealots. They were English noblemen who owed enormous debts to Jewish moneylenders and saw an opportunity. On the night of the 16th of March, the eve of Passover, the community made a decision. The rabbi told them it was better to die by their own hands than the mob's. Fathers killed their wives and children. The men killed each other. They set the tower on fire. About 150 people died. The ringleaders then marched to York Minster and burned the debt records. The tower that stands on the site today, Clifford's Tower, a massive stone fortification that still looms above the city, was built on the ashes. Every spring, daffodils bloom around its base. Their 6 petals echo the Star of David. Fact 6. She refused to plead because a plea would have meant torturing her children. Margaret Clitheroe was a butcher's wife from the Shambles in York, the old meat market district, where her husband had his stall. In 1586, she was arrested for hiding Catholic priests. She refused to enter a plea, not out of defiance, but out of calculation. calculation. A plea would have opened a trial. A trial would have required witnesses. Her children would have been tortured to provide them. The automatic sentence for refusing to plead was peine forte et dure, or simply pressing. In plain English, they crushed you until you talked or died. On Good Friday, the 25th of March, she was stripped, laid on a sharp stone, and crushed under roughly 800 pounds of weight. It took about 15 minutes. She was probably pregnant with her fourth child. Guy Fawkes was 15 years old and living in York when Margaret Clitheroe was crushed to death 3 streets from where he went to school. Historians believe what he witnessed never left him. Fact 5. 40,000 armed men nearly brought down Henry VIII. He negotiated, promised everything, then had them executed. In 1536, Yorkshire rose. Not a mob, but lords, gentry, monks, and commoners marching together under the banner of the 5 Wounds of Christ, a symbol of Catholic resistance to Henry's dissolution of the monasteries. The Pilgrimage of Grace was the largest and most dangerous uprising Henry VIII ever faced on English soil. At its peak, 40,000 armed men controlled most of northern England. Henry didn't have the forces to stop them, so he talked. He promised pardons. He promised to address every grievance. They believed him and stood down. He broke every promise. The leaders were arrested. Robert Askey, the Yorkshire lawyer who had led the march, was taken back to York, hung in chains from Clifford's Tower, and left to die of exposure. The same tower where, 346 years earlier, a community had burned rather than surrender. Henry didn't win by force. He won by lying, and he made sure the punishment was visible from across the city. Fact 4. 1 in every 100 people in England died in a single afternoon. You can walk across the field in 10 minutes. March 29th, 1461, Palm Sunday, near the village of Towton, between York and Leeds. Somewhere between 50,000 and 80,000 men met in a blizzard. The Battle of Towton is believed to be the bloodiest single day in English history. 1 in every 100 people alive in England died before nightfall. The Lancastrians held the ridge. The Yorkists advanced through driving snow. When the wind shifted, the Yorkist archers gained range and the line broke. What followed wasn't a battle, it was a chase. Men were cut down fleeing across frozen fields. A stream called Cockbeck, running beside the battlefield, reportedly ran red for miles. Edward IV, the Yorkist claimant to the throne, took power. The House of Lancaster never recovered. You can walk the field today in 10 minutes. There's almost nothing to mark what happened there. Fact 3. The largest battle ever fought on English soil happened here too. 183 years later, 20 miles away, July 2nd, 1644. Marston Moor, a flat expanse of farmland west of York. Roughly 46,000 soldiers, made up of parliamentarians, Scots and Royalists, fought as the sun went down. Oliver Cromwell's cavalry shattered the Royalist right flank and rolled up the entire line. By nightfall, the Royalists had lost the north of England. 4,000 dead. York fell within weeks. Fact 2. A dam collapsed at midnight. The engineer had been warned about the cracks. March 11th, 1864. Just before midnight, the Dale Dyke Dam above Sheffield failed without warning. 700 million gallons of water hit the Loxley Valley in total darkness at 18 miles per hour. It reached the city while people were asleep. 240 killed, over 600 homes destroyed, bodies found miles downstream. The dam had been completed weeks earlier. The engineer responsible had been told about structural cracks during filling. He decided they weren't serious. The Great Sheffield Flood remains one of the worst engineering disasters in British history. The city buried its dead and built on top of the wreckage. Fact 1. Yorkshire built the modern world. The modern world moved on without it. This is the county that produced the first commercially successful steam locomotive, the first football club, stainless steel, the Bronte sisters, and the chocolate bar. West Yorkshire's mills drove the Industrial Revolution. South Yorkshire's coal and steel built modern Britain. Sheffield alone armed the British Empire. Then the 20th century happened. The mills closed, the mines shut, the steelworks emptied. The fishing fleets in Hull rotted at the docks. Entire communities that had existed around a single industry watched that industry disappear within a generation. Not gradually, but as policy. York Yorkshire built the machine. And then the people running the machine decided Yorkshire was no longer needed to run it. That tension runs through everything on this list. Romans, Vikings, kings, rebels, engineers, governments. Yorkshire has been invaded, burned, massacred, lied to, industrialized and discarded. And it's still here. Bloody-minded, enormous, and largely unbothered by whether you've heard of it. That's Yorkshire.